and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. I am your host, Ben Porter, and I am joined today by the people of Bermooda Games. There's a veritable legion of you, so why don't you each introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is April Ma. I am part of the Bermooda Games, and I do handle all the art that goes to the game. So I pretty much handle the art department.
Okay.
And my name is Daryk Mall, and I pretty much do a lot of the business and legal side.
I'm Lauren, and I do a lot of the communications with people like yourself, reaching out to reviewers, podcasters, and handling our Twitter and marketing scene.
I'm Michael Diaz, and I do like the storyline, a lot of the game designing and stuff like that.
Good to have you all on the show, guys. So I think we mentioned just before we got started here, you're probably the biggest independent company we've had on the show so far, by virtue of the fact that independent companies tend to be one or two people. So how did you guys all get together to form Bermooda? How did that come about?
I think it all started pretty sporadically, actually. We all have always played board games together, just kind of just spending time. And one day, Michael actually came up with the idea for a board game. Like, oh, what would be cool is if we made a game like this. And I think we sat down that night for, about an hour together, maybe two. And by the end of it, we were just like, oh, we should meet again. And over time, we started having regular meetings, and we just decided to try to make it a thing.
You say that you all game together. What sort of background do you guys come from? What sort of games were you playing together?
So let me start with Daryk and I are actually married, and we do collect board games. So we do have a variety of board games. So what we used to have is invite people over to play some games. And over time, when you play a lot of board games, you kind of come up with your own favorite genre. And we had this idea of, from this game we like this kind of mechanic, and from this game we kind of like this mechanic, and we kind of like put everything together, and we started creating our game. And at first it was just for us, just to play between ourselves, because it's fun. And then when we actually had it all put together, that's when it started becoming, why don't we try to introduce the other people? Maybe they'll like it too.
So card games, party games, is that the sort of thing you guys like?
I'd say it's more like those long hours, like like, have you ever played what's it called? Through the Ages, where you sit down for like 6-7 hours and just grind out that game. That's kind of what we usually play, and now we do like a lot of
We play. I think I would say we play all types of games. Really, we do have times where we do play a bunch of like fun party card games, and then we do have those times where we sit down and play like a 6-hour game of Through the Ages as well.
Depending on our mood and depending on our schedule.
Yeah. and I think it started out. I think it started out with more party games, to be fair, though. We had groups, and we play Werewolf. I think is one of the biggest, and not really board game, but just gaming groups. And then eventually we had smaller groups, and we play everything. Yeah.
You guys have been working on a game called Are You Going to Eat That? Which, as the title suggests, involves scarfing down as much food as possible.
Correct.
It's a bit of an unusual theme for a game. So how did that all come about? How did you decide you wanted to make a game about eating food?
So when we first started, like, we had this grandiose idea of this huge game with just a bunch of figures. I went home one day, realized that there was no way we were going to be able to fund this particular project. So pulled out a notebook, started writing. Oddly enough, the idea came from
food.
It was just like I had this image of like, like a buffet, and like what would happen if there was just nothing. Like, how would people react if they would go back to like their animal side and start stealing from each other, or just get up and leave. And so the next time we talked about it, or next time I showed up, I just brought up the idea and kind of just ran from there. Yeah. At first it was going to be kind of like an adult style, as far as like grotesque. Like, we had an image of like a fork in a hand, you know, when somebody asks you to eat that, you just like stab in the hand. And then later on, I went to more of a, you know, of a chibi family style, because like the target audience was a lot bigger. But it was just kind of, this idea just came on a whim, really.
Yeah. It also works for us because, like I said, we play a lot of board games, and we're all foodies. We go out in the middle of the night to go to a restaurant and get pancakes or something.
Yeah.
And what we usually do is we bring small filler games where we can just play while we're waiting. And that's where almost like the idea came from as well. We're always, you know, stealing from each other's plate, and we also wanted to make it all light where you can bring it to a restaurant and play it while waiting for your food.
Yeah. So you were saying initially, just there, that the game was this big, sprawling, complicated thing to begin with. So how did you end up with this bigger game and then scaling it back down to what is essentially a party or a card game? You know, a lot more streamlined than those sorts of games.
Well, I think we had started off kind of pitching out a couple of ideas, like 2 or 3 different themes and different types of games. And we initially started working on that very heavy, complicated game that we were talking about, because we were making it for ourselves, to be honest. At first, it was just for us to play amongst ourselves for fun. And when we decided that we wanted to push forward and actually try to make a company out of it and produce and sell, then I think we decided that our first game, we should maybe go with one of our other ideas. So we even now have about 3 to 4 ideas kind of just sitting on the board, just waiting for us to pick up again and start working on. But we decided on this game to be our first game to release. So
yeah, it's probably pretty savvy, because you know, if you guys being first time creators, it can be a bit daunting for backers to invest in a great big project when you're relatively unproven. So that's pretty smart what you guys have done. So going to examine Are You Going to Eat That itself, there's a quite a lot of cards in there as these sort of games go, and each card has unique artwork on it. That must have been quite an undertaking.
Yeah, it was actually really fun, because a lot of us, you know, when we were like, okay, this is how many types of Devour cards we're going to need, this is how many types of food cards we're going to need, there were sessions or meetings where we just sat down and were like, okay, what type of food do we want to see in breakfast, and what type of food do we want to see at lunch, and then different scenarios of devouring, like how many, we needed 12 different Devour ideas. So we had to come up with 12 different Devour arts. And our artist actually was really good working with us, because she'd send something back and then we'd be like, you know, this is too close to the other one we'd say, or that we said. And so we switched a lot, and she worked with us a lot, which was really great.
So in terms of the game itself, how close to finished are you guys with the game?
We're actually, I would say we're 99% done as far as the game and the mechanics itself. Right now we are just we're just putting together cosmetics, the best quality box, the best quality cards that we can provide, and all that good stuff. But as far as the game is concerned, we're done. Yeah, it brings a lot of fun on the table already.
And the for Kickstarter itself, what's your intention in terms of tackling that? Because that's it's something to, it's quite something else to design a game, but to actually be putting it out there in the ether to the backers, that's got to be quite daunting.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that I actually saw, I can't remember, somebody, because I'm like I said, I run the Twitter account, and I remember somebody posting on their Twitter that it's one of the perks of designing a game is, you know, designing a game is kind of like a game itself. Once you get to the marketing and business side of it, that's a lot more difficult. So after we finished, you know, the majority of the designing and the art and all the fun stuff, you could say, we were slaving away, I guess, at all the business side, making sure that, you know, we're reaching out to potential backers, you know, getting ourselves out there on podcasts such as yourself, and basically figuring out all the shipment and pricing and from our production company as well.
Cool. So going forward, maybe getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, but assuming that Are You Going to Eat That funds successfully, what's the future of Bermooda Games?
Oh man, hopefully we all quit our day jobs and just work on nothing but the plethora of ideas we have, and hopefully just bring out heavier and heavier games. But that's kind of the dream, isn't it? Just doing what you want for a living, and hopefully that one project can back all of that.
Right. Yeah, I would say, you know, I mentioned that we have multiple games kind of sitting there waiting to be designed. And
On the table, if you will.
Yeah, on the table. So I would say if this funds successfully, you know, people could hopefully look forward to more and more games coming from us. And one of the things, you know, that Lauren does specifically for us, and we all pitch in, but she does a lot of it, is, you know, just listening to feedback. You know, so if our consumers really wish to be having more family games, well, we have those, you know, or heavier games, well, we also have those. You know, we play just about anything. So assuming we're successful, we would love to take this to the next step and just see how far we can take it. At the very least, getting our ideas out there for people to play is a win for us.
I have to ask, because the name of the company, Bermooda Games, okay, you've got your logo is a cow's bum. Right.
There's a story behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you'd care to explain, I'm all ears.
So actually, when we started meeting, and we were talking about maybe, you know, making this into a company and, you know, trying to produce our own games. Originally, we were meeting at a house that was on Bermooda Street, and it's at the end of Bermooda Street. So I was like, oh, well, you know, Bermuda's End. Bermuda's End. And then once we started getting into the legality of it and trying to copyright and trademark everything, we were told that you cannot what is it, trademark a place. So we Daryk's dad actually heard about this, and he was like, well, just change it to Bermuda and you can have a cow looking over its bum. And he said it as a joke, but we kind of were like, you know, that actually is kind of funny. We'll go with that.
Because it's an MOO, so we came up with a cow and showing its end.
Yeah. Well, you certainly don't forget it.
I think that's the idea.
It's quite interesting what you were saying about the whole legal issue of trademarking place names. A lot of people don't know this, but a number of years ago, the Lego company ran into a similar issue with their Bionicle range. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It was it was their first attempt at Lego's first attempt at doing a sort of action figure type range, and all of the names that they used were taken from the Maori language. And one of the races within this range, they were called the Tohunga, and that, I believe, is actually a name that a group of Maori used to refer to themselves. So there was a group of Maori people that took Lego to court and won, and Lego had to change the names of a whole load of the stuff in their range because of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, there's definitely, for a company, there's definitely a lot of learning, and we do not regret it. We do not regret going the proper way, because I know we've heard a lot of stories about other companies out there who you don't necessarily have to have this established company to put up your idea in Kickstarter, but we decided, you know, since we're very serious about this, we'll go ahead and take the right way, and we don't regret it, because there's a lot of things that we have learned that if we did not take this route, it would have been a disaster for us.
Yeah. No, it seems like a sensible move.
Yeah.
So, not long to go for the Kickstarter for Are You Going to Eat That? When's the big day?
May 1st.
May 1st.
Yeah.
May the 1st. Okay, and where can people go if they want to have a look at Are You Going to Eat That prior to the Kickstarter launching and then when it does launch?
Okay, we do have a website. It's bermoodagames.com. It's BERMOODA games.com. There you can find information not only about the company, but mainly you'll find information about our game, Are You Going to Eat That? And you can sign up to the newsletter to be updated on things that are happening.
And the cool thing is, I've discovered that when a company or when anybody reaches a sort of level of fame, they become kind of untouchable. So I want to stress as much as possible. We're going to be writing blogs on our own website, and we want anybody to feel free to give us their opinion, to tell us about, their gaming experiences or their creating experiences or what they want to see out of like the next big board game. I never want to lose sight of reaching to the community. So hopefully people can use that to their advantage, read our blogs, let us know, if we're just completely crazy or if we're spot on with what we're writing. I feel like that's a huge thing as far as creating a board game and creating a name for yourself goes.
Yeah, it's definitely our website is very, very personal to us. Everything that we'll be posting there, not only the games that we create or any future games that we're working on, but like he said, the blogs are almost always going to be personal experiences, what we love about the board gaming community and stuff like that.
Yeah, whether it's our salty moments or it's our victories or those moments we just don't pick up a board game for a couple weeks because we're just, angry at the person next to us.
Yeah, things like that.
It's all valid because we're all human at the end of the day. And it's just yesterday I was at Compulsion in Edinburgh, which is it's a convention that they hold at the Edinburgh University every year. And I was talking to Richard Denning, who is the owner and operator of Medusa Games, and he also runs UK Games Expo, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but that's the big one in the UK. And he said a similar thing actually, because I was talking about how, even though we're going to Unlucky Frog is going to UK Games Expo in our capacity as journalists, we've actually set aside a day where we're going to enter a Shadespire tournament, and we're just going to be playing the game. We'll maybe take photos occasionally, but we were kind of dithering about doing this, but we decided no. When we set out to do this podcast, we said to ourselves that we would always remain gamers first and foremost. The moment that you lose track of that, you really need to question why you're doing what you do, I think. And it's the same, I think, for designers.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talk about a lot. Before we start working on, our next game, we want to play as many games as possible at that level of difficulty, so that, we get a taste for what we're creating, why we're creating it, and, just to stay true to why we started this originally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go, folks. That was Bermooda Games. Keep your eyes peeled for their Kickstarter coming on May the 1st. This has been Unlucky Frog. I've been your host, Ben Porter. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hi everyone, it's Charlotte from the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. All you need to do is search Unlucky Frog Gaming. You can also show your support for the Unlucky Frog through Patreon. To find out more information, check out our website, www.unluckyfrog.com. Thanks, bye!